Hello and welcome to the Cup Experience, our pre-race show covering all the details of the 36th America's Cup. And this is day number 2 of the Prada Cup Challenger Selection Series. Hi, I'm Tucker Thompson here in the United States, joined by my co-host of CupExperience.com, Cup expert, Jack Griffin. He is in Switzerland tonight. And Jack, yesterday's first day of racing was filled with drama and intrigue and certainly surprised us all, didn't it?
Oh, Tucker, it surprised everybody. I tell you, I am so glad I didn't have any bets placed on yesterday's races because Ineos Team UK really put on a show for us. Incredible.
It was incredible. And before we get into the details of that, let's take a look at the sponsor, 60. 60 seconds to thank the companies that make our show possible, beginning with Mount Gay Rum, the official sailor's rum and the official rum of American Magic. Visit mountgayrum.com to learn about all the different rums and go to drizzly.com to have some sent right to you, drizzly.com. Yeah, we're actually going to be posting a special Mount Gay Rum mixing video that we did down in Barbados last week for our viewers pretty soon. We also want to thank SeaDeck Adhesive Foam Decking, which will literally transform the deck of your boat. It did for mine, and it has for American Magic as well. Special thanks to AkzoNobel and All Grip Fast Finishes. American Magic is finished with the All Grip Next Generation Top Coat called HDT, and it's clearly fast. Raba and Birking Silver is something that Jack Griffin knows quite a lot about. They have a special American Magic collection, including cocktail tumblers, bottle coasters, serving trays, and they all have the American Magic logo. You can ask Jack for more about how to order them, and you can find them on americanmagic.cupexperience.com. And finally, thanks to Pellini Authentic Italian Coffee, the official coffee supplier of New York Yacht Club American Magic, with its Pellini Top 100% Arabica espresso coffee. It's unique, it's unmistakable, it's delicious. Pellini Coffee, keeping American Magic energized, and you can buy it online at Amazon.com. Well, here we go. Day number 2 is today. Day number 1 was yesterday. And Jack, a lot of questions have been generated about the teams in this 36th America's Cup over the past few years. And yesterday, some of them were definitely answered, particularly if you're a British fan of Ineos Team UK. In a word, it was stunning. The television commentators were almost speechless. I know we were watching it, and I know people around the world were too, because Ineos Team UK's performance in the World Series was vastly different from how they performed yesterday. Let's take a look at the highlights of day number 1 of the Prada Cup.
The start of the Challenger Series, the Prada Cup, was an important day for all 3 teams on the road to the America's Cup. But it was a very big day for the British Ineos Team UK, who had yet to win a race since arriving in Auckland. Their first opponents were American Magic. Both hit the start line on time and at speed, but Ineos had the early advantage as they headed for the right-hand side of the course. Here, there was more breeze. By the top mark, they were 11 seconds ahead, a slim margin, but one they developed. At the halfway stage, they were over a minute ahead, and by the finish, 1 minute and 20 seconds.
It feels a little bit better than 6 losses or whatever it was. So, yeah, we left it a little bit late, but managed to find the pace when it counts on time in this breeze.
You know, while it may be a surprise for some, we definitely knew it was going to be pretty close.
Next up, Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli versus Ineos. The breeze had increased. Good news for the British, who won the start. The Italians were staying close, waiting for an opportunity. At the first gate, Ineos Team UK were 15 seconds ahead. By the bottom, 22 seconds. The Italians were doing everything they could to stay in touch. And despite catching up on the penultimate leg, they had to try something different. But it didn't work. And Ineos Team UK finished 28 seconds ahead.
Can be happy with how the boat went today, and the guys did an awesome job. Getting the boat around the track, Giles calling the shifts and the pressure, and yeah, quite some turnaround in these conditions.
We tried a couple of things up near the top, but yeah, just couldn't find a way around them. But yeah, again, full credit, they sailed very, very well in front then.
After no points on the board since December, now they had 2 from 2. This was a big day for the British.
Well, Jack, it definitely was an amazing day. Complete turnaround. What do you make of it?
You know, that's only the fourth day that these guys have been racing these boats. And they have shown us that, number one, the boats are great for racing, and number two, they are really going after each other. Aggressive moves, real racing. I mean, this is real sailboat racing. Big surprise to me that their racing is that good. And I know it's a big surprise to a lot of other people. Ineos Team UK certainly shocked their competitors yesterday.
Well, they did, and we've got a video of that actually from the press conference, I believe, right?
Yeah, it's really interesting. The press conference was fun to see how Ben Ainsley, a little bit happier after winning 2 races, but they got to joke around a little bit. But let's just listen to Ben at the press conference.
So, Sir Ben, you are here. You told us you are not sure to come for sure on a winning day. Thank you for being here. Are you sure you are sailing the same boat?
It's definitely the same boat. It's just had quite a few modifications, which we talked about.
You said you didn't change anything visible, but your boat looks different on the water when you sail. Very strange.
Well, it's in front of another boat for a start. Haven't done that for a while.
Well, Jack, it's good to see that he was happy.
We didn't see Ben with that big smile on his face during the America's Cup World Series. But boy, they changed so many things on their boat. You know, it's sort of like everything except the hull was changed, and possibly, I guess, the sailors' uniforms. So,
well, can you tell us what you think was changed and how much of a performance change it resulted in?
Okay, look at the foils in this picture here that's up on the screen with this sort of angle halfway across the span of the foils. I mean, they changed their foils. They changed the foil wings. They changed their rudders. They changed their mast. They changed their sails. They certainly changed the hidden stuff that we don't get to see, the systems to control everything. But, you know, let's take a look at a couple more pictures of what the boat looks like now. You know, if we take a look at this, we're going to see that they had
Sorry, that's me just playing with the PowerPoint, trying to follow you. I don't know where that slide is, so you're going to have to verbally tell us what changes you think they made on this shot, Jack.
Yeah, no worries. So everything. So they changed. Like I said, new mast, new sails, new foils, new rudder elevator, and certainly new secret stuff, the control software for all of their systems. One thing that's kind of interesting to me is that Ben mentioned twice thanking, naturally, the shore crew who worked like madmen, over the last 3 weeks to make all these changes. But he also called out Mercedes GP Formula One team who have been behind the scenes helping them out with secret stuff. We can only guess at it. I'm going to guess that it had a lot to do with their aero package. But unbelievable, the changes they made. Really, really exciting stuff.
You know, what else is unbelievable is they did so many massive changes and very little time to get used to the new changes on the boat. And I think, at this level, that impresses me just as much as the actual changes themselves. So we've gone through the highlights of what happened yesterday. You know the results now. Ben Ainsley won both of his matches with Ineos Team UK, first against New York Yacht Club American Magic, and then against Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli. Now, interesting to note between those two matches, match one and match two, the American team lost or continued to lose more leg after leg. I believe it was 1 minute and 20 seconds, the delta at the finish. But Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli was able to keep it a bit closer. That means today's race between the Americans and the Italians should be very intriguing to watch. And the changes definitely work, Jack. This is the shots you wanted to look at. So you were talking about the foils. Let's just do this real quick so we can stay on time. Here's the next shot.
Yeah, so here we are. If we take a look at the foils now, it's not just the color, but see that the shape of the foil, there's not that kink about halfway across the span of the foil. So they went from black foils and they had that kink in it, but now they've got something that is, as Kenny Reed talked about during the show, they used to have some rivets showing. Those are gone. again, hard to see the changes, but they were pretty dramatic. I think we've got a picture of their old foil and a picture of their rudder as well. If we can go, just click through to the next picture for me. Here we are with the foils that they were racing with yesterday. Again, it's not just the color black, but it's also certainly the shape of the foil and undoubtedly some of the control software that's in the innards of the boat to work the flaps on this. One more, I think we've got a photo of their of the rudder. Here we are.
Yeah.
You can probably see that the rudder changes shape over the length of the span of the rudder, wider at the top for when they're in displacement mode, and then thinner down below so that when the boat's out of the water, they have less wetted surface, less drag, and they need a smaller rudder at higher speeds to do the same steering. So these are just a couple of the changes, that we could see. But boy, oh boy, they really were able to sail the boat well with all these changes. The guys didn't get as much time on the water as they would have liked because it was in the shop so much, but doesn't seem to have hurt the sailing team any.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Jack, because everybody's jumped on the changes they made to the boat, the systems, the sails, essentially the physical characteristics of Ineos Team UK. But what about the boat handling? Yesterday, they showed us that they have improved that as well. In fact, they pulled off one of the hardest maneuvers in sailboat racing. Let's have a look.
2, 1, 4 down. Okay, good. Turning up. Got some negative there. Okay, good.
47 seconds was the gap after leg 3. Now we're going to find out what it's like after leg number 4.
They are some kind of confident. That's about as hard a maneuver as it gets that they just pulled off right there.
Well, there you heard Ken Reed say it was one of the hardest maneuvers to pull off in sailing, to go into a leeward mark, do a button hook turn, stay on the foils, roll into attack, and protect the right-hand side. Now, this is not the Ineos Team UK, Jack, that we saw in the America's Cup World Series. They were barely able to pull off foiling, let alone a maneuver like that. In just a matter of weeks, the word is impressive. Here's what Ben Ainsley had to say about their performance after the racing.
What do you do now? How do you keep developing? I'm sure you got a few more tricks up your sleeve, right?
Yeah, we do. We still got to work on the lighter airs. We're going well in this breeze and up, probably. We haven't sailed that much in 20 knots. But the lighter stuff, we've still got a lot of work to do. And that's really what we're focused on. And yeah, we'll see. I think the forecast tomorrow is a little bit lighter. So a long way to go in terms of getting the maximum out of this boat across a range of conditions, and obviously with that goal of getting through to the end of the Prada Cup. So yeah, it's a good start, long way to go.
I like that. Long way to go. He keeps it in perspective as far as how well their performance is. Now, Jack, yesterday's show, I gave my opinion about how, well, ugly I think was the word, that the British boat looks. Now, if you're a British fan, I have to apologize. I still think that. I'm going to stay with that, but obviously it's fast. However, I want to talk to you, Jack, about the aerodynamic treatment of this boat. The reason I've come to this opinion, it's not the paint job, it's not necessarily the shape, but it's some of the attributes that to me don't look very aerodynamic. Starting with the bow, they've got one of the thickest, most snub bows in the fleet. And then, Jack, you mentioned yesterday this very large bustle. All the other teams have a very skinny skeg, which takes up very minimal aerodynamic resistance. So the underbody and the sides of the hull, the facade of it looks to me like it would be hard to drag that through the air. But let's look at the deck treatment as well, okay? And I want you to contrast this, Jack, with the other two teams, which in my opinion look like a much smoother aero treatment. Look at this hatch on the bow, which I find is funny. All boats have bow hatches, but at this level and the expense that goes into the design, you'd think that would be flush. It's got to create some windage. Over to both sides, you see these protrusions. That's the end of the jib car track. The other teams have come up with much more flush treatments of that, but this team just has a fairing that goes up to a very large, object on that jib track, windage rather. And then look how high the crew is compared to some of the other teams that are down in the cockpit wells. And then finally, this treatment of the boom and sail and end plate area. None of it looks as aerodynamic to me, Jack, as the other teams. What do you think?
fast is beautiful. So I agree. I mean, all of those things look pretty odd to me. When we look at Prada here at Luna Rossa, it's really smooth. They've actually added some cowlings to keep the crew even more out of the wind. We talked a little bit yesterday too about American Magic. The boat just looks really slick. I mean, I still love this. I mean, I still think it's the best looking of the boats, but fast is beautiful. So I guess I'm gonna start calling the Britannia too. The Ineos Team UK boat is a beauty. Now, here's the thing though. What they've done is they came from being way off the pace to having got themselves to being able to be competitive performance-wise in this mid-range air. So they sailed really well yesterday. The other guys, both teams, made a couple of mistakes. It was interesting, Terry Hutchinson had made the comment, they executed the strategy that they wanted at the beginning of their race. Just turns out the strategy was wrong. Ineos Team UK had a good strategy. So the boats are even now in terms of speed in the mid-range winds. We still, as Ben said, we have a lot of racing yet to do. Let's see how things go today.
Well, and that's a fair point because that could have been their sweet spot as far as the wind range. And again, we apologize to the British fans for calling the boat ugly. Just an opinion that compared to a boat like this, for example, it looks great, but we can't call it that anymore, Jack. It's now the ugly duckling, and we know what happened with the rest of that story. It turned into a beautiful swan, and certainly the swan was the boat of the day yesterday. But it wasn't just about fast design, which has always been the hot topic of the America's Cup, because it is first and foremost a design competition. And people thought going into this next iteration with the AC 75s that the racing would be boring. It would be a blowout. One boat would get the design right, the others wouldn't. But what we're seeing is the designs are coming closer and closer together as the teams work on these boats in terms of performance and sailing skill. And Jack, this is now becoming a real boat race, isn't it? And that's exciting for the fans. It's no longer about one boat being so fast they're wiping the other one off the race course. We're talking wind shifts, tactics, and even pre-start maneuvers, right, Jack?
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's the thing that really is both surprising and pleasing to me, is it's real racing. I absolutely did not expect to see these guys going at each other with match race tactics in the pre-starts. I figured everybody would just be doing timed runs, staying away from each other, just trying to stay up on the foils. But they are really sailing and racing these boats really well. I mean, some of the pre-start action is incredible.
Well, speaking of that, let's go to a clip that, shows how to win a start in terms of the British boat and perhaps how to lose one in terms of their opponent. Let's have a look. And Jack, maybe you can talk us through this.
Yeah, so here we are. This is the pre-start for the race between Luna Rossa. Here the two boats are coming together. Watch, here's Ineos tacks. Luna Rossa wants to come down under them and try to hook them. But the tack was just so good. Ineos they pulled off a great smooth tack. Now what's happening is the boats are heading off to the left side, way below the starting line, and a left shift comes in. And now here's a question where tactics come in. Neither boat really saw the lefty coming in, but Luna Rossa got surprised by it more than Ineos did. So now here's Luna Rossa, 2 lengths behind or downwind from Ineos, heading into the starting line. Ineos is they're just off here. They take off. Luna Rossa sailed well after this. They made up some ground on a couple of the legs. They lost ground. They wound up losing by, I think it was 28 seconds was the delta. So they were able to come back into Ineos Team UK. But man, you can't lose the start like that and expect to have success in match racing.
No, I think it's a very fair point. Here's a free frame shot of what we just saw, Jack. And the lower left corner, that is the British boat, Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli on starboard tack. So Jimmy Spithill is at the helm. And listen, Spithill has won 2 America's Cups and certainly been in this game for over 20 years. So with all credit to his skill level, I don't think we're seeing the same Jimmy Spithill in the starts that nicknamed him Jimmy Pitbull in the starts of previous America's Cup. I'm going to go out on a limb and venture to say that his monohull match racing control is possibly better than it has been in these foiling boats, as evidenced by the starts we saw in the 35th America's Cup in the Catamarans against the Team New Zealand, sorry. And then here you can see against Ineos Team UK, I mean, clearly the way to win a match racing start, Jack, is not to be 3 boat lengths behind on the wrong tack and having to follow your opponent and live in their dirty air. And right after this shot, when they crossed the line, they had to then tack again to get out of the gas from the British boat. So definitely not a way to start the race. But what it does prove, and what the theme that we'd like to keep pointing out, is that it is coming down to sailing. At least yesterday, more than design and technology, which is exciting for the viewer. And I also want to point out, Jack, this man, Giles Scott, the tactician on Ineos Team UK, he's got to be the MVP yesterday. The British team did not make to my eye, any tactical mistakes from the start to the finish of both of their races. And one thing that's interesting to point out about the way Giles is calling tactics actually was pointed out by our producer-director, Mason Sheen, yesterday. He said, look, isn't Giles the only tactician that is able to freely move around the boat compared to the others, Jack? What do you make of it?
Yeah, Giles was the MVP for sure yesterday. Ben, said they had a strategy. They wanted the right. They wanted to be near North Head at the one end of the race course, and they got to be where they wanted to be, thanks largely to Giles making great calls. Now, what does Giles do on the boat? He's the tactician. Doesn't have to turn the handles. He's not a grinder. He doesn't have any grinding duties. What he does do is he steers while Ben is crossing in the maneuvers. Other than that, Giles is the eyes in the boat, and he and Ben talk a lot as they're going up and down the race course. It's a big advantage for them, I think. It's really interesting. Everybody should take a look as we watch how these boats sail. All 3 of them have different setups for how they do tactics. We just talked about Giles on the British boat. Terry Hutchinson is the tactician on American Magic, but Terry spends time on the handles. Now, he's the oldest guy on the boat, but he's fit as can be, and he is a tough grinder. But he's got grinding duties as well as doing the tactics. And then on the Italian boat, on Luna Rossa, we've got Jimmy Spithill and Keko Bruni, helmsmen on either sides of the boat, Jimmy on starboard, Keko on port. When one of them is steering, the other one is the flight controller, and they're sharing the tactician duties. So all 3 of these boats are going about it differently. Yeah. They're all really good teams. I'm not saying one is going to be dominant over the other, but they're all
yesterday,
different.
The British team definitely was dominant over the other 2. And hey, is it the changes they made? Is it Ben Ainsley? Or is it this man, Giles Scott? It's yet to be determined, And one thing that was also brought up yesterday is this is a long Prada Cup Challenger Series. It's going to be 4 round robins, then a semifinals, then a finals, 2 months before we determine a winner. So this is all just day one. And, Ben Ainsley was keeping it all in perspective yesterday in the press conference as well. He's realistic about the bigger picture. Here's a look.
Yeah, we were able to go where we wanted to go, and it worked. So it's nice when that works out. It doesn't always happen like that, but it was nice on a day like today when your sort of strategy matches up, the boat's going well, and everything falls into place. I thought the performance of the boat was the performance of the boat. I mean, we obviously put it in the right spot on the course, which makes a big difference. There's been a massive jump in performance from the World Series and the Christmas race, but these other 2 teams are also going really well, and I think there's probably an evening up of the performance delivered across the teams in these mid-range conditions. I think any of these teams have the speed in those conditions if they sail a good race to win out, and that's fantastic competition. That's what we want to see. Trick for us as a group is, can we progress enough to match the Kiwis? That's the target. That's the goal.
Jack, Ben brings up a pretty good point there, doesn't he?
Oh, geez, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of racing to be done here. A lot of racing.
So keep it in perspective. Speaking of perspective, we were very lucky yesterday. Right after the broadcast, I got an exclusive interview with a good friend of mine I used to work with covering the America's Cup, Ken Reed. He's one of the AC TV commentators. They're doing a great job bringing the event to us around the world. For those of you in the U.S., it's, as you probably well know by now, it's on NBC. It's time delayed. It's late at night, but you can also download NBC Gold, NBC Sports Gold package. And for a fee, you can watch it live, and you can see the streams coming off the boats as well. So that's how we've been watching it. But as soon as the racing was done, and it was kept us on the edge of our seats, we set up an interview with Ken. Here's his perspective of how things went down yesterday in New Zealand.
I don't think the British team expected this. You know, they've had some races where they were close, but close does not work in a two-boat fleet. And then all of a sudden today, it's like, what a performance. And not just speed, but I think it was more about smarts today. You know, they're going to look at the overall speeds of the boats and how all their data is such a data-driven world. But at the same time, they just put the boat in the right spot all day, whether it was in the pre-start and pushing in the first race and then leading back in the second race and then dominating, getting to the right-hand side of the race course. You can hear the Brits are coming in right behind me right now. The horns are blaring, and I mean, it's really cool. It's quite a scene. There's tons of people down on the docks where the Brits are coming in. Today was a wind shift day. That was a really narrow race course because it was very dominant right-hand side race course, and we've seen that in that southwesterly breeze out there on that race course. We've seen that right-hand side be very, very strong. So I think it was as much a positioning day as it was anything else.
No, I agree with you. Today was definitely a tactician's day. And if there was an MVP from today's racing, you'd have to say it's Giles Scott. As a tactician, how much is he able to roam free around the boat? And is that more of an advantage compared to some of the other tacticians, perhaps like Terry, who's stuck on the grinders more with his head down?
Well, that's a fair point. And there's no question he's as big a roamer as there is on any of the boats. And when you don't have your head in a grinder, maybe you're a little clearer to do the right thing. I don't know. Time will tell. Remember, this is just day one, so we can't draw huge conclusions yet. It's going to just take continual improvement. You have to improve every day. If you don't improve every day, it ain't going to happen for you. And we just saw that these guys couldn't get around the race course 2 weeks ago, and here they are, just two dominant performances today. So you know what? All those other teams are going back to the drawing board tonight, and wouldn't be shocked if somebody else came out tomorrow going another knot and a half faster yet again. That's the type, it's going to be more like San Francisco, Tuck, when boats literally gain knots per day. Sometimes they're going to trip over little things or get a little part and piece on the boat, and before you know it, boom, untouchable. So long way to go, but it's going to be like we said earlier, it's going to be a better team meeting tonight in the Ineos compound. I can tell you that.
Definitely, that's for sure. And I think you just summarized the best point of all, Kenny. This is going to be a leapfrogging America's Cup. Today was Ineos' day. Tomorrow could be the Italians. The next day, it could be American Magic, and who knows where the Kiwis will fit in. But do you think this is going to be one of the most competitive and difficult cups to win in that regard because of that?
Yeah, the Challenger Series, it just officially became wide open. Tomorrow is going to be right at the bottom edge of the range. So we might see a completely different Ineos team. I think the wind strength is going to play a major part of this as we go along.
Well, Kenny, you've got one of the best seats in the house, and it's great to have your perspective. Thanks for taking the time to chat with us today.
Yeah, great to be with you, Tuck, and we miss you down here, big boy. Just not the same without you.
Kenny's great. Getting his perspective fresh right off the race course is pretty cool. And he's right. Yesterday was only day one, Jack. There's a lot more racing to come, as we've said. And in different wind conditions, some of these boats, they're moded differently. Particularly American Magic, we're going to see on day number 2 of the Prada Cup today. This could be their day. They've got race 1 and race 2, just like the Brits did. So the pressure's now on them to perform, and it's going to be lighter air. So we know the Brits, Ben Ainsley has admitted that he still doesn't think they found the edge in light air. So the first race today is going to have American Magic facing the Italians, Luna Rossa, Prada, Pirelli, and then they have no rest at all, a quick turnaround, and they will race Ineos Team UK. Jack, that's going to be the one to watch, isn't it?
Yeah, that is, because here we're going to see Ineos Team UK in lighter air. Now, the forecast is that it's going to be getting a little bit stronger. So by the time that second race rolls around, they may have a little bit more breeze. But today could be a big challenge for the Brits.
Yeah, and after today, there's one more race. I want to remind everybody to stay with us tomorrow as well. 2 more races on tap, and then next weekend, 3 more days of these 4-round robins to qualify. The leader goes on to the finals. Second and third will race each other and then move on to the Prada Cup finals. The winner goes on to the America's Cup. Let's talk about today's conditions, Jack. Tell us what's going on in New Zealand, because the race starts in about half an hour.
Yep. And Ian Murray this morning during his briefing, he said he was expecting to see 7 to 9 knots southwest, so coming out of about 225 degrees. The wind may build up to 9 to 10 knots by the time the Brits and American Magic go at it, but expect delays. There may be delays today. That's the forecast is for light.
Yes, and then finally, tell us about the race course that they've chosen. A bit of an odd one today.
Yeah, one thing that Ian has learned already is that don't try to change courses. So in other words, if you're on one course, don't try to move somewhere else. Set up something so you can be in the right place. So on this map, if you look at course C and course D, he's basically staked out all of that area, and he will set a course somewhere in there between the space for course C and course D, hoping to get in 2 races, maybe delays. We may only get 1 race today, may go off great, but that's where we are. We're going to be somewhere between course C and course D.
Okay, well, hopefully the breeze will hold. Hopefully we will see some action today. And Jack, we didn't start our show with it, but we're going to end our show with our traditional toast. I've got a glass of Mount Gay rum here. And I want to once again thank all of our sponsors. And I know you've got a cup of Pellini coffee keeping you up very late at night in Switzerland, and we thank you for doing so. Cheers. Here's to the America's Cup, and we want to say good luck to our support for American Magic. Here we go.
Absolutely. Cheers.
My favorite part of the show, Jack. Okay, well, we hope you've enjoyed it. That's all for us today, folks. The pre-race show here, Cup Experience number 2, comes to a close, and we certainly hope you've enjoyed it. We're going to be broadcasting the Cup Experience before every scheduled race day from now through the end of the 36 America's Cup. We certainly hope you'll join us, share with your friends, like and subscribe to the shows on Facebook and YouTube, and also you can send us your questions, which we'll try to answer as we go along throughout the series, and your comments for future shows on Facebook, or email us and join our mailing list. Send an email to tuckertlive@gmail.com. And for more info on AC36 and to join Jack's newsletter, sign up at cupexperience.com. I want to thank all of our sponsors once again, and that's it for us. That's going to close out day number 2 of the Cup Experience. We certainly want to thank all of you for watching, and for our American fans, we want to wish American Magic good luck in their 2 races down in Auckland today. Well, for Jack Griffin and our producer-director Mason Sheen, I'm Tucker Thompson. Thank you once again for watching the Cup Experience.